Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rebel Roundtable. And I'm super excited today. I'm totally going to fangirl out because I have Jordan Ostroff here, and he lives a lot of the things that I preach as well. So he is pioneering change in the law firm industry, building a practice focused on real relationships, transparency, and efficiency while working 24 hours a week instead of 24 hours a day. Gee, who does that sound like? He believes being a great lawyer doesn't mean sacrificing your life or your flip flops. So I always love to see a lawyer in a Hawaiian shirt and flip flops. So thanks for being here, Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a blast.
We
And
just
this
have,
has been like the sh
yeah, it's just so much fun to try to figure out like all the lawyers out there who are doing cool things that you think you're alone
shortest.
because no one really talks about it. So you talk about this a lot of the lifestyle lawyer. The your podcast is the laid back life, and I love it. So you've built that Hawaiian shirt, laid back CEO mentality identity. Was that intentional, or did you just refuse to hate your life?
Yes, both. Well, so like what I tell everybody is like, look, Hawaiian shirts were not day one, but there was a day where I was like, I am miserable wearing a suit every day. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go out of business, I'm going to go out of business in a polo and shorts. And then I was like, but a blue polo gets really boring. So I was like, what can we
Yep.
do on top of that? And so like it wasn't necessarily Hawaiian shirts from day one, but it was like, look, I want to be approachable. I want to be easy. I remember the lady who ran the company that cleaned our office came to our one of our Cinco de Mayo parties and invited her husband, and he was like, I'm not going to with some fucking lawyer party. Like that sounds miserable. And she was like,
That's
no, 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 you don't understand. Like everyone's gonna be in shorts and a Hawaiian shirt. Like it's gonna be super fun. And so like I found this out because he came and like an hour into it gave me this whole story, and he's like, she was right. This is fun. Like
yeah.
we're drinking tequila and we had like the axe throwing, not real axes, the what were they? Like felt,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Velcro
Something
axes and all
safer
that
than
stuff.
axe throwing, yes.
Yeah, but he was like, "This is amazing." Like I heard lawyer party, and I did not expect it to actually be fun. And I was like, "It's the getup, right? Like it's
Yep.
the lifestyle." I'm so glad to hear that
Yeah.
because, like, especially for PI firms, for family law firms, for traffic ticket firms, anything where you're working with like normal people, when you are inapproachable, that's not going to be helpful.
Exactly. So, at what point did you realize that you didn't want to run your firm? Did you ever fall into that? You said the polo thing, but did you ever just feel like, okay, this isn't how we have to do things just because that's the way everyone else has done it? Was it pretty
Yeah,
early on? Yeah.
I was miserable. Like I wish I can't really give you my like eureka moment
Yeah.
of that. Like my eureka moment of deciding I needed to get out of being a lawyer and run the business was the birth of my child. But like going into it, or I should say my wife telling me she was pregnant with our child
Mhm.
was probably the first step of it. This was just like, look, it's my firm, you know? There's this meme that goes around that I love. It says you have two different lives. The second life begins when you realize you can buy a cake for no reason. And like, I don't like cake, but I love that concept, right? Like we were sitting here like, I am a lawyer. I have to wear a suit. I have to show and a tie, and I must show up. But no, you don't. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a real rule. You can dress how you want. You can order cake when you want. You can have this fun. And the crazy part is when you do it, one, you are happier and
Mhm.
you are more invested and you figure out how to make things work. And two, you start attracting people you like working with.
Yeah.
Like it amazes me. I can look up and look at my lawyer coaching clients and be like, so I did an exercise for my ideal client and I was like, all right, which of my clients do I like that could be my ideal client? And I was like, oh, this one. Oh, and this one. Oh,
Yeah.
and this one. Oh, and this one. Oh, and this one. Oh, and just like went down the list because all of them were like, we want to go get coached by the Hawaiian shirt wearing lawyer instead of the custom made bespoke suit one who's going to tell us to grind, grind, grind. Like I am attracting the person I want to work with, and by the same token, repelling the one I don't
Exactly.
from the get up.
Yeah. And I think I have a problem. So many lawyers, they want to cast this wide net and they want to make sure that everyone's coming to them. And I'm like, you don't want everyone. You want the ones that you like working with because you'll be miserable working with people that you don't identify with or you don't appreciate kind of the good things everybody brings to the relationship. So, yeah,
Of course. And Morgan and Morgan spends over $1 million a day on advertising.
really.
1 million, over $1 million a day. So like you can't compete with the people that are trying to get in front of everybody. Like we all have our own little, our tribes, our
Yep.
herds, our raving fans.
Yep.
The more that you are you, the more you stand out to that tribe, that raving fan, that herd, that, cult, whatever you want to call it.
No Kool-Aid. We're no drinking. Actually, I really kind of like Kool-Aid with flip-flops. So maybe
Yeah.
that's a good idea. So
We just, but we didn't poison the Kool-Aid. Like our Kool-Aid is fun. It's life. It's, getting to see our kids every night instead of, sitting at the office until the sun goes down. Like that's the Kool-Aid here. But if
yeah,
that's the Kool-Aid you want, like let's do it.
yeah, exactly. Well, and if that's what you want, you're probably not going to be a good fit for either Jordan or I when it comes down to like coaching and mindset and stuff like that, because I don't identify with that at all. Um, let's talk about your 24-hour work week. That I know lots of lawyers, they pride themselves on their 24-hour work day. Let's talk about where you came up with this 24-hour work week and what that looks like for you.
Sure. I used to be I, I used to joke like I work half days and that was 12 hours because there's 24 hours in a day. So like this just became like I was like, what's the other sort of funny
Yeah,
one? And the 24 hours a day to 24 hours a week.
yeah,
So my son goes to school from 8 to 3:15. He takes the bus home. He's home by 4. So like 8 to 4, 3 days a week is 24 hours. Realistically, I don't start until 10 on Thursdays because I'm at the gym beforehand and I take an hour for lunch. So that gives me 5 other hours. And then I figure that those hours are, checking an email randomly on Tuesday or Friday or staying later for a client or, something along those lines. So it's probably, so it's not exactly 24 hours. It might be less. I just love the mindset
right.
shift from a day to a week.
It sticks in your head. Again, it's one of those things that you remember. So, but it's also very true because there are lawyers out there priding themselves on how many thousands of hours a day they can work or whatever crazy thing. Um, what is the biggest lie lawyers tell themselves on why they have to work so much? Why do they do
Oh,
this? What's out there?
I'm the best at everything. That's the
Uh-huh.
lie.
Uh-huh.
I am not. I am terrible at most things.
Mm-hmm.
I joked. I joked. It was true. I did not know the Wi-Fi password in my office. Like my executive assistant got it set up, and then I was like, "Look, I'd be great under torture, not because of resilience, because I don't remember any passwords. I don't know them. I have no, I have no idea. But like, why do I need to know that?
Right.
You can at the front desk, we had a whole thing. We would save their drinks that they got beforehand. Hey, do you want
Mm,
another tea? You want another coffee? You want whatever? And then like, here's the Wi-Fi password if you need it while you're waiting. And
right.
also like, we didn't make clients wait. So,
Right.
little things like that. And the benefit of realizing you're not the best at everything means one, you can let it go. And
Mm-hmm.
two, you can let it go to somebody who will be the best at it. And then three, all of you can get better at fewer tasks because you're doing them more often instead of doing, 24 different things for 1 hour a week.
Yep.
You're doing three things 8 times every single week. You have that many more reps. And
Mm.
it just becomes this, what's it? Jim Collins calls it the flywheel, right?
Yep.
Like it just gets spinning faster and faster. But ultimately, like the flywheel is I'm doing the things I enjoy doing and I'm getting better at them and letting other people do the other things that they enjoy doing so that together as a whole, everything is done, but it's not me.
Yeah, you're doing it. Well, and I think that's, I mean, a lot of lawyers do fall into that trap of no one's going to do it as well as I'm going to do it, or I don't have time to show someone else. I'm like, you have to let go of that. But I think it's something that gets ingrained somehow. I don't know if that's in the Kool-Aid in law school or what it is, but it's this idea that we have to do everything and be everything to everyone.
Jen, I've never handled a PI case. My firm does PI cases.
Yeah.
I, as we made the transition to that fully, I made the transition to running the firm. I've never done it. I've
Mm,
never gone to court for one. To the extent that I've talked to clients, it's the customer service aspect of it.
right.
It's not the specifics of their case because I can get a lawyer who spends 40, 50 hours a week living the case,
Mm,
living case law, living all those things, who can have those conversations. I get to live my life from a marketing,
yeah.
customer service, coaching type standpoint. And so I can do a really good job on those things.
One of the things
Like
you
at
like doing. It seems to me, at least talking to you, those seem to be the things that you like doing and are good at. So
Yeah, well, and I don't know how many people do we talk to that are beating themselves up. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing good at, well,
yep.
doing good, doing well. What's grammatically correct?
I think
Well,
it's well,
doing well
but
at anything. I
Yes.
think it's well. We're gonna go with well. They're like, I can't, I don't think I could do well at anything. And then you sit down with them and you're like, okay, so you're trying to do a full-time lawyer job and a
Yep.
full-time marketing job and a full-time sales job and a full-time running job. And you're also, trying to generate the business and make the decisions and checking with the marketing team. I'm like, you're doing six full-time jobs. Even in 60 hours a week, you can do one and a half full-time jobs. Like
Right.
that's the issue.
Yeah.
So when it comes time to you are already overworking, get the stuff to other people when it's their expertise and not your expertise. And that becomes an easier way to make the delegation transition.
And I find that a lot of lawyers have a problem getting out of their own head when it comes to that. They can't jump over that like little hurdle. They're like, I know there's probably a better way. I know that there's people out there who talk about this, but I just can't, they can't make that jump. They get frozen in this kind of analysis paralysis of how do I make that jump to let someone else do these things? That
Well,
might,
and that's kind of the beauty of AI
yeah.
is, if you look at AI as your thought partner,
Yep.
like, look, hey, I'm terrible at this. Here's what I'm doing. What am I doing wrong? What can I do differently? This is not an AI example, but like
Yep.
I'm awful at hiring. Like I hired people for a decade and I don't know, probably one out of five, was a good fit,
Hmm.
which I've been told like one out of three is great. So I wasn't that far off, but I hated it and
Right.
it was never consistent and yada, yada, yada. So finally, like I went to one of my hires and I was like, hey, I hired you. You're fantastic. I suck at hiring other people. So like, what do you think about putting together a hiring practice for us? Take what I did with you that was good, fill in what I missed, put it together and they ran with it and we made a couple small tweaks to the process.
Hmm.
The first time we did it, they're like, "Hey, you're talking to the last three people." They're like, "I vetted 65 candidates down to three." And I was like, "I love all of them. We hired two of them. We made a totally different position from the other people." And now Audrey's been with me for over almost 2 years. So in the year and a half that we've done this, every hire has been with us from whatever time that was. Now, some of them it's been 2 or 3 months,
Right.
other ones it's been over a year.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm terrible at this. Like I suck at it. What do you think about taking ownership? We'll do the feedback. And it was so much better.
Hmm.
And so now like she feels empowered for the hiring process. I feel excited I don't have to do it. Our employees are happier and staying and they're actually being put in the correct jobs and we're hiring the right people at the right times.
That's
Like
awesome.
it's wild because
Yeah.
I realized I'm awful at this, but
But
the
you have to be
company
willing to
needs to be
admit that you're
okay.
awful at it. That's the thing. Is like you have to be willing to step into the awfulness. Yeah.
Sure, but the reality is we are awful at a ton
Yeah.
of things. And
Yeah.
so it's just a question of do we keep doing them or do we make sure that they are correctly done, but not by us? Like that's the shift. It's not that this isn't important.
Yeah.
It's that I'm not the right person to be doing it or in charge of it or, whatever the steps are.
Mhm. A lot of times I talk to lawyers that I've been out on their own for like 10, 20, 30 years. And they're always like, well, I think I would like to go try a different practice area, but I can't do that because this is what I picked right out of law school. That's like they started with an estate planning firm, they started with family law, they can't switch. What's your response to like that mindset of, well, this is what I picked 30 years ago. I have to keep doing it.
So, have you ever read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight?
I have not.
All right, so it's about Nike. It's insane. Nike should not exist as a company. There's too many weird coincidences. Like he goes to Japan and he like gives this guy a bike for his kid, and then 20 years later, this guy is the deciding vote on whether they get the money to stay open. Like it's
It shouldn't
nuts.
have happened.
I
Yeah.
think when they had four employees, two of the four weren't even cashing their checks just because they believed in it so much. Like it's crazy. And he
Mhm.
goes through this whole book, and I mean, even Shoe Dog, it doesn't even get to Jordans. Like, I think it ends in like the 79
Okay.
with Nike. And at the end of it, he's like, and then my son died in a diving accident, and I would give all this up to spend one more day with him.
Hmm.
And I just think like you're never gonna sit on your deathbed thinking, I'm so glad I was miserable in that same practice area.
Yep.
But you are gonna sit there say like if you're okay, let's say you graduated law school at let's say 25, you've been doing this for 20 years, you're 45, you plan to work to 65. So you're only really halfway through it. Like
Hmm.
I can't imagine you're gonna sit in your deathbed and say like I'm so glad I made that transition 40, 50 years ago to this other practice area and still had 20 years to do it and enjoyed it so much more or hated it and went back. Like
Yep.
I try to think about the end goal in mind,
Yeah,
and like I'm never gonna be upset that I left the office early, that I picked my kid up from school early, that I like those are not the things that we regret.
yeah. And I think again, it's mindset. Some of it comes down to like that's how it's always been done. But I also think it's scary, and there's too many people out there in the legal industry, which both you and I are on the transforming legal industry bandwagon. But there's too many people out there in legal telling people you can't do that. Like you picked this, you have to do it, and living up to those expectations. Sometimes we get in our own heads a lot of the time. So
And you know what's gonna happen? We're gonna be Blockbuster. Like right now is the opportunity where Netflix
yep,
has come to us. It's AI, it's a new practice area, whatever. And it was like, hey, for I think it was $50,000, buy us. And you're like, we've always done it this way. You're stupid.
yep,
Well, good luck. You could find a Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon, and that's it. And you can find Netflix everywhere on the internet. So, like, there comes a time where you just have to throw out the way things have always been done because the reckoning is coming or
yeah.
is already here.
It's already here. I think I like what's happening, obviously, in the legal industry. It's sped up a lot with COVID because it made people not think they have to go to a fancy high-rise office all the time. That was one of my hangups. And then also now with AI and technology, the remote worker is going to be the selling point for a lot of people. And I think the law firms who are not using technology and going back to high rises are going to be the blockbuster of the decade. So, or the
Yeah,
century. Um, let's talk about anti-hustle because a
sure.
lot of times that's what lawyers get like, oh, we're so obsessed with burnout as a badge of honor almost. And I view someone in a Hawaiian shirt and flip-flops probably doesn't have that same mentality.
Yes. So, I was a prosecutor before I opened my own firm, which was awesome because we had the opportunity to we had enough discretion on our cases and we got placed in front of like the same judge every single day for a long period of time. So you get to know like
Mhm.
different judicial demeanors, temperaments. There was a judge I was in front of that had this line that she had to have said 500 times when I was in front of her. Life's a grindstone, but whether it grinds you down or polishes you up is up to you.
Mhm.
And she would always, it was like that first time offender at arraignments, she'd give them the line. That person who had had a terrible life, she'd give them that line. Like it was like, this is the moment for you to use this terrible arrest as a springboard towards a better future and be polished up instead of ground down. I think about that all the time. And then I realized like I was grinding myself down. And in my first 7 years as a lawyer, I can tell you more colleagues who died by suicide, heart attack,
Yep.
stroke, or otherwise abandoned their practice than who retired. Like there were two who retired in Central Florida in the criminal defense realm, both because their wives' companies got purchased. There were 8 to 10 who are no longer with us in at an age where that should not have been the case. This is
Yep.
not like 85-year-olds. This was 40 and 50-year-olds going through this. And I don't think that I think I was on that path
Yep.
very early in that path. Not, not going through true clinical depression and stuff for this, but I was looking at what my future was going to hold.
Right.
And 80-hour weeks and now having a child on top of that was not going to be the thing that was going to make me happy or feel like a good father or a good spouse or a good boss or a good lawyer. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
When you are burned out, you are helping nobody.
Yeah. And I think again, it comes down to the way things have always been done, and the billable hour keys into this a lot too, because if and we go off tangent, we go off on billable hour stuff. But I think that that's just kind of what's been ingrained in people, and that's what they expect to be successful as a lawyer. That's what they have to do. Um,
Sure, but even look, we were a criminal defense firm at the beginning. There are a lot of genuine emergencies. Like I was on
yes.
the phone with somebody who was on the toilet getting arrested. I was
Yep.
on the phone with another lawyer who had a client who was in a police standoff, like talking people down through it. But the reality of it is, if you think about it like an answering service,
Mm-hmm.
the answering service answers your phones 24 hours a day, not because one person is always there, because they have multiple shifts.
Exactly.
So even if you are going to be an incredibly emergency-driven type of law, hectic family law, injunctions, criminal defense, etc., find 5 staff members or multiple attorneys, and everybody has the after-hours call 1 day a week.
Right.
Go through it in a way where people can have a life, look like doctors on call. The same doctor is not on call every night. There's enough of them to make sure the system is covered. Why? Because otherwise you get burned down and miserable,
Hmm.
whether it's intentional, whether it's unintentional. You can't stay in the game long enough
Right.
if you have the candle burning on both ends. You have to refresh. You are the asset. You are the
Exactly.
product.
And you make poor decisions. The more burnt out and tired you get, the poor decisions. And they may not be like life altering ones, but they will make your life more miserable because you're making poor decisions.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people think I'm doing it for my client's benefit, but like there was a lawyer, he and I used to meet, I think every Friday at like 2 or 3 o'clock. We look at the dockets for the next week and see where we could cover for each other.
Hmm.
And I showed up to his office one time and it was boarded up and everything was gone. And I believe he was working on roofing in the Panhandle. We couldn't even figure out he was alive.
Oh,
We
really?
thought his IT person had murdered him and then found out maybe they didn't. It
Yeah.
was a whole thing.
That's crazy.
There was no Netflix documentary because I think he's okay. Like I think
Yeah.
it turned out as well as it could, but
Yeah.
he had 500 clients.
Yeah.
So now like one, he got disbarred. Two, the bar was like, "Hey, we need to give these clients everywhere." So thankfully, there were 5 or 6 of us close enough to him that we all took, 50, 60 clients as much as possible. And
Hmm.
then a number of other people stepped up to take, 5 or 10
Yep.
because these clients were in a rut, like they were in a bad spot. And thank God the judges were so understanding and, didn't rake
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
the coals knowing what we were doing.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure he thought I'm helping clients by putting in more effort until he broke
Yeah.
and disappeared. And now, they're left holding the bag.
Yeah. So now you coach otherwise. So we're both in that same thing where we started out as lawyers and I went to the consulting side, you went more on the coaching side. Talk a little bit about what when lawyers come to you, what do they think the problem is versus what do you coach them through? What does that look like?
Ooh. Okay, so I have a terrible answer to this question only because the lawyers who come to me now are like, I've been reading your newsletter for three
Your
years. I've
ideal
done everything
clients.
you like.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
so I see most lawyers complaining about finances.
Hmm.
Either I can't get enough cases or I can't find enough staff. Those are the complaints I see the most.
Okay.
My clients have a very specific reason. They're like, hey, we're about to have a kid and now it needs to change. Or I've got other clients who are like, hey, my kid's about to pass the bar and they're coming into the firm as the first lawyer and now we need systems. So I get to work on a lot more of like the exciting, proactive, fun stuff.
Hmm.
The issue that most lawyers have with the money or the hiring is I think they have never gone back to their ideal client
Yep.
and their core
Yep.
values.
Yep.
I think ideal client helps you find the right cases and say no to more marketing opportunities. And
Yep.
I think core values helps you figure out who to hire.
Yeah.
And those I think are the two foundational things that are actually most people's problems, but they see it from a staffing standpoint or they see it from a cash flow standpoint.
And that makes sense that it's going to hit law firms like you don't see things differently there. We weren't trained in law school as business owners or marketing people or any of that kind of stuff, so the underlying issues often tend to be a little fuzzy for us to try to figure out. So um when someone comes to you, what's your process look like? What does coaching with you look like?
So the first thing that I always do for them is we have a conversation about what's the reason, and like we talk through the outline of their current situation.
Okay.
So what technology are they using? What staff did they have? The kind of cases. Then I'll have them audit their time for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And the funniest part is I'm always like, hey, if it becomes really obvious to you the things you're doing you shouldn't be doing, you don't have to go the next 2 weeks. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
get emails like 3 days in where they're like, I've spent 16 hours on email the last 3 days. I think that's too much. Can I just stop doing the time audit? And I was like, yes, yes, you can. So it's funny because we'll go through that cycle basically every 3 months. We'll do the time audit and then we'll start fixing the things and moving stuff around to be their actual time use. And for a lot of clients, it's like the third time we do it where they actually get through 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the first couple of times, they're just like, this is obvious to me now that I'm writing it down. I am spending way too much time. I am a runner. I am a glorified legal assistant. Like
Yep.
I'm doing all these things I shouldn't. I'm like, all right, cool. Because at the end of the day, like we have 168 hours in a week
Yep.
and life is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very focused on the time. I don't even want to say time management aspect of it
It's
because it's not like
activity
hacks.
management. Yeah, it's like what you're doing with your time, not managing the time itself, is how I usually.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
time happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
We look up and time is gone. So like what are those things that put us in that flow state,
Yeah.
where we get in the zone? Like how do we do more of those things? And then ultimately, like where can we get multiple impact?
Yeah.
We get stuck on multitasking, which is BS. But like I have clients who want more referrals and want to lose a bunch of weight. So we're like, great, instead of networking lunches, let's go for a networking walk around the park downtown. Like let's get these things set up. They're trying to get 10,000 steps a day. They have too many meetings. Great. What of these meetings can go to walking meetings, even if you're the only one walking? Like, where do you need to be in front of a screen versus not? Where can we find those multi-impact things? They want to spend more time with their kids. They want to network. Great. Find any kid-friendly networking. It probably doesn't exist, but when you make it, you get a lot of similarly situated parents excited to go to the park and let the kids run around at the playground wall talking about business or, whatever. And instead of going to a happy hour where everybody gets hammered, you go to a baseball game,
Yep.
something like that. It becomes a lot of fun and you can accomplish a lot more
Yes.
in the same amount of time and enjoy it more
Yeah. And
instead of trying to cram more things in.
if it's not there, create it. Like everyone's looking for cool things to do. And if you come up with something cool, you're going to attract the people who are looking for those cool things to do. And that comes around to you. I don't remember if we talked about this before on your podcast, but Who Not How, Dan Sullivan's book. Have you read
Yeah,
that before?
I read
That's,
the book.
that's one of my favorite ones to listen to every once in a while because I'm like, damn it, I shouldn't be doing all these things that I'm doing. And this, like, the time trap of things sometimes. So that's what it reminded me of when you were talking.
No, no
Um,
problem. And it's not just the who can do it better. It's who am I going to enjoy doing it with or working
right.
with as they do it?
Yep.
Because like if all of us, most of us, I think, have hired that tortured artist who gets along terribly with everybody, but is really good at their job. And you're
Mhm.
like, but I hate this person. And then you fire them and everybody else is like, thank you so much.
Thank you
We
so
all hated
much.
this person.
Yep. Yep.
So it's the who, not how in enjoying in culture fit as
Right.
well as them doing it.
Yeah, definitely. So, where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Sure. JordanOstroff.com is my website. We're going through a update that'll be up in the next couple weeks with a bunch of free resources and more podcast links and 4 years of newsletters that you can read through for free and all that stuff. Otherwise, if you Google me, there's only two Jordan Ostroffs, and I'm the Hawaiian shirt wearing bearded one. You'll find me pretty easily. See if I'm the right vibe for you. If not, cool. You have plenty of other options. If I am the right vibe, let's connect and chat more.
Sounds good. And so on the Rebel Roundtable, we do have our Spotify playlist of our anthems for Rebels. What's your go-to song when you want to smash society? The way things have always been
Ooh.
done.
Okay, so if from a really destructive standpoint, Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit
Okay.
doubles as being amazing because like they played that song during Woodstock 99 as everybody was destroying the entire set. And I was like, what did you think would happen when this song played? So there's this like meta element of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
For hype up, look, I'm a Boston Red Sox fan, so Sweet Caroline with the whole chorus like just
Yeah.
gets me going. And then as a dad, I will be honest, there's a ton of bangers on the K-pop Demon Hunter soundtrack that will wake my child up at
Yes.
7 o'clock in the morning when he's struggling. Golden will get the
Yep.
entire day going forward.
We're going up,
So
up, up. Oh, sorry. My kids are K-pop Demon Hunter fanatics. So yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it works. And the enjoyment that I get if my child is ready for school 5 minutes earlier is
Yep.
so worth rocking out to that song or one of those songs.
One of them, yes. No, and I've never sung on the Rebel Roundtable before, so please don't hold it against me, anyone, and tune back in next time. So, thanks, Jordan. Thanks for your time. Thanks for all of the way you're willing to do things out there, the things you put out there, because it's much needed in this industry. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And tune in next week for our next Rebel